Hello everyone, Lelaine Artgeek here. Welcome back to the channel. We are going to be using some more acrylic markers in this video, but this time I am only going to be using acrylic markers. So no pens, no pencils, no nothing. So it's a little bit of a good challenge for me to try, so I hope you guys will enjoy it. And really quick, I do want to thank Arrtx for sending me this 36 acrylic marker set. I really appreciate you guys always sending me new supplies to try, and I am very grateful of your support for my channel, and I'm also grateful for you guys who are watching. So thank you so much for tuning in, and I hope you guys enjoy. This is what the marker looks like for each of the markers, and you do have to shake well for each of the markers as well, because of course this is acrylic paint in each of the markers, so you just have to keep that into consideration and just shake the marker even for like a little bit to really get that paint going. So before I get into the actual review of these acrylic markers, I do want to mention two things actually. So number one, as you can probably tell by now, of course, you can see that I'm actually working in my sketchbook with these acrylic markers. If you've seen my past videos, lately I've been using like separate sheets of paper for acrylic marker work because I think that it's a lot easier to be able to handle it on another sheet of paper. Because of course, when you're using sketchbooks for your acrylic markers or like for your paints and anything like that, depending on the sketchbook, the pages curl, and so that's why I haven't really used sketchbooks as much for acrylic work. However, I have to use it this time because we are in the middle of moving, and the majority of my art supplies, if not all of my art supplies, are at the new place, and the new place is 40 minutes away. And so I decided, because I already have my sketchbook with me and the set of acrylic markers, of course, I just decided to, use my sketchbook this time. And plus, I really needed to complete the sketchbook not on time, but like I also just have a goal to finish the sketchbook by before the end of the year anyway, so I might as well just fill it and use the acrylic markers in my sketchbook. And I'll deal with the paper curling later, but it's just kind of like a nitpick of mine. It's really not that big of a deal. And the second thing is that you guys can't see it right now, but hopefully you can hear it, because I'm currently recording in my closet because of the fact that, again, we are in the middle of moving, and so the majority of my office is empty, and so because of that, it creates a lot of echo. And I just felt very picky about that. I tried recording in my office and the echo was too strong, and I really didn't like that. So I decided to shift into my closet, and the audio I feel is a lot better. So hopefully you guys can hear that. And if it does bother you, I'm so sorry. It's actually, in my opinion, I feel like it's better to record in here than in my office right now, especially in the midst of moving. So please excuse it for just this video, and I still hope you guys enjoy it and enjoy this little review. But speaking of review, let's just go ahead and get started with that. So if you've never been to my channel before, I have used these acrylic markers before, and I really enjoy it. Like every time I use acrylic markers, I do enjoy it. It does get a little tricky because when you're using paint, you have to kind of just imagine that you're working with very opaque colors. Like if you've worked with Posca before, it's essentially the same thing. So that's why I decided to give myself a little bit of a challenge this time, where I only use acrylic markers, and I actually really enjoyed this process. I never thought that I could draw with just one medium at all in such a long time, because usually I'm the type of person that likes to do like a pencil sketch underneath, and then I do line art, And then I do like some sort of color, which is either going to be like alcohol markers or watercolors or even like acrylic markers. So that's kind of like my process whenever I do any type of traditional artwork. So this was definitely a challenge for me to just only use acrylic markers, sorry. But yeah, I really enjoyed it, and I also love just how opaque these colors are. That's always something I enjoy about acrylic markers, and the ones that Arrtx gives, it's always so opaque and it layers so well. The darker colors like that blue for the hair is so bright. When I got to this pink color though, I have noticed that there are streaks, like unless you do like maybe another layer or so, like you're going to just see those streaks. I'm pretty sure you can see that through the camera right now. But yeah, that's the only downside, but no worries, because what I did was I just shook the pen again and I went over it one more time, which doesn't take that much time at all. What's nice about these markers is that because of the pointy nib design, you can turn it to the side and you can actually cover more ground with it that way. So that's exactly what I did for her shirt here. And so now you can see that it's opaque because I did another layer. And then another thing is that I definitely wanted to try to continue to layer on top of acrylic markers. So I wanted to do kind of like a checkerboard pattern with this set here. Or the shirt. I don't know why I'm like messing up on my words. I do apologize, guys. But yeah, I really wanted to kind of just experiment again with layering, because that's one of the more exciting parts about acrylic markers, is because of the fact that they are so good with layering. And whenever I do have that opportunity to do that, I start to really enjoy it, because then at that point it feels like I'm really using these acrylic markers to their fullest potential. And I love, like I said, I love the colors on these markers as well. What is nice about these markers at the same time is that the only thing you would have to do to activate these markers is to just shake. So that's all I did. I just shook each of the markers so that I can get the paint going. Sometimes there are markers where you kind of have to like press the nib down to get the paint going. But thankfully with these, as long as you shake it and test it out on like a separate sheet of paper, then you are good to go. And that's what I love about using acrylic markers in general, specifically Arrtx's, because of the paint control and the paint quality and just the vibrancy of their paint. It's always so even, so nice, and even with the streaks, they're still so pretty to look at. So yeah, I know I do a lot of these reviews specifically through Arrtx, but I'm so serious when I say that they are probably one of the better art supply companies that I've worked with, because of their quality and of their support for other artists. And I'm just very grateful to be working with them again. And every time I use their supplies, I love the results. I really do. And I could probably talk about that all day, but it's true. It really is. So I will be honest, admittedly, it did take a very long time to actually figure out what I want to do for this challenge, like what I want to draw for this video, because I knew that I wanted to do a character that's a little bit bigger, like size-wise, than I normally do, because normally I would just have like a character that's almost like full body. But I knew that in order for me to actually get the details for this character, especially when I'm only using acrylic markers, I knew that I needed to have like a bigger head and like a bigger kind of like torso body part, I guess, if that makes any sense. But like I needed to kind of make the size bigger in order for me to make it easier to add those details on the character. So as you can see here, now that the head is easier and bigger, not easier, but it is bigger, it pretty much makes it a lot easier for me to be able to add the shading and add that block of shading. Even though I understand that these pens have like that pointy nib, even when you're drawing super, super small, sometimes the nib, if you don't press it lightly enough, it does leave like a big mark because of the pressure of how you're pressing it onto the paper. And so you would have to kind of like fix it again. And it's kind of a lengthy process, and it's happened before, and it kind of bothers me because of the fact that like if you make a mistake, you have to use like a marker again to layer on top of it, like how you normally use paint. You have to cover your mistakes and then rework that part again. It's the same concept here. But I had to work big so that it is easier for me to get those details. And I don't regret it. I don't regret drawing big. I do need to do this anyway. Like if I were to handle kind of like a bigger sheet of paper one day and use acrylic markers or some sort of acrylic paint, it's definitely recommended to work bigger. So definitely lots of credit and kudos and talent to those people who can work in smaller canvases with acrylics, because unless you have a steady hand, I can't do it. Like I cannot handle that at all. I used to, because I used to be patient, but now like I'm kind of thinking bigger on like a bigger plane, if that makes any sense, specifically when I use paints, right? So I have to kind of work on a bigger canvas, on like a bigger scale. And I'm not sure if anyone else has that type of feeling as well, but definitely let me know. And if any of you guys at any point during this video have used acrylic markers before, specifically Arrtx's or any other company, definitely let me know what your experience is, because every time I use acrylic markers, like I said, I do enjoy it. So I just want to hear your experiences as well. But I love when I do like this type of like bold line work on top of like a lighter color plane, like how I'm doing her eyelashes here. I love this part. Like I was so excited to finally get to this part of the drawing process. So, and I think there was someone that commented that, you know, I really love drawing big eyelashes on girls, and it's true, I really do. They're really fun to draw, and I know I'm not the only one. It just adds a lot of personality, and I've been drawing a lot of like punk girls recently, like alt girls and people like that. So, and I think it's just because of the eyelashes. I don't know. It might be me, but it's the eyelashes, it's the colored hair, and I love that style. I love it. You probably have noticed that a lot in my recent work. And I don't know, I love the color palettes, and I also just love how bold it is. So I decided to go with that again for this video, and I hope you guys aren't sick of it. I do want to draw other things, but I guess like right now I'm just using these punk girls as like a subject for my work. However, I think it's great for this challenge and for using these acrylic markers because of the fact that they're so bold and so bright already that it definitely feels seamless when I use my acrylic markers for them. So yeah, I really enjoyed using these markers for real, because I'm just a sucker for bright colors. And I know I've said that before in my past videos, but my opinion will never change because of the fact that bright colors are always my jam, and I enjoy it. I really do. I didn't know what to do for her mouth, I'm not gonna lie, so I kind of just went with the lipstick trick. And this part, shading her shirt, was a little difficult because of the fact that for this 36 marker set, I did have a little bit of trouble with figuring out like what to use for the shading. And I have noticed, unfortunately, that there were a few markers that had the same type of colors or very closely related to it. So sometimes I would pick up a marker and I would try to use another color with it, but then it's almost like the same color, if that makes any sense. So yeah, I'm not really a big fan of it, and I kind of wish that there was a bigger contrast, but I also understand that when you have a 36 marker set, you don't really have that many colors to work with in general. So that's kind of like, if you want a smaller set, you do have to kind of think that you are limited to what you can use. But I will say, for this challenge, it is perfect because of the fact that I had little to work with. So I actually had to think on my feet and figure out what colors would be best to use for this drawing. And I didn't want to cheat and use another set, because obviously at this point, all of my art supplies are at the new place. And so I only had this set of acrylic markers with me. And so I just wanted to really stay true and just use these markers for this challenge. But yeah, I wanted to definitely give myself a challenge, and I wanted to push myself because I think this is what will help with those creative juices. And I do recommend anyone doing this type of challenge where you're limited to a palette and you kind of have to just work with that palette. I really do recommend it. So at this point of the drawing, I am working on a background, and I'm not gonna lie, I love this color for the background, this like aqua color. However, I have noticed that it's very close, not very close, but it's similar to her hair, so it kind of looks like she blends in. But later on, I do add a little bit of a line art, which is the same color. Actually, it's a little bit darker, I apologize. It is darker than like the shading of her hair, so you'll be able to see it a lot easier when I do get to that point. But I don't know, I really love this aqua color, but I also wish I changed it into a different color. And but thankfully later on, I did add some more background elements to make the character pop. And I will admit, I did have to stop a little bit to record a reel of this same drawing. So you might notice that there are going to be parts where there are elements that have already been added into the drawing. And that's because I drew during a reel recording instead of the video for this. So yeah, I hope that makes sense. But once I got all of those background elements together, then I really felt comfortable with this drawing, and I love the results of just everything with all the colors combined and like working together in this piece. I really enjoyed this challenge. It made me think about like color blocking and understanding like size comparison, like, okay, how big should these blobs be? That's supposed to be her hair. How big should they be in order, for it to all come together? And it's just a lot of like thinking. I had to think a lot for this challenge, but it's also a good thing because it helps with my creativity skills. It helps with my, my ability to think on my feet and stuff like that. So, and kind of think about like how I don't even need a sketch to paint, and this was a good challenge. I think I would probably continue doing this on the rest of my sketchbook pages, but yeah. And this is it. This is the finished drawing, and I really hope you enjoyed this little review/chat. And if you have any questions or if you're curious about anything else, definitely leave a comment down below, and make sure you subscribe and like the video before you leave. And yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you guys in the next video.